if it does get to that point where not only do Americans have this like Asian hate crime is prevalent in America, and you have this divide, and at the same time, because of the American and Chinese relations are getting worse and worse, that us being from America but Chinese ethnically, we have nowhere to go. We go back to America, you have this like, oh, go back to China, you're Asian. You're in China, you're like, you're fucking American. You suck, right?
Yeah.
And then I had this little bit of fear, like, what if it gets to that level? Like,
yeah, where we have
so, like,
no
selfishly,
home
because we're in a certain type of predicament from our background, but selfishly, I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Because I actually feel it now, and I want to bring this up right now because I feel like this actually is the reverse of the Asian hate crime in China, and I'll just say it here. You already have, at least I have already seen anti-Americanism in China, right? And me, even though I'm Chinese, I have an American passport and I'm American. I'll hear comments here and there, of, oh, you're American, snicker. Perfect. Let me be more specific. I had one time I was on a shoot, and one of the people on my team, very senior, been around business, everybody knows this guy, right? Really nice guy. Like, we've worked together before, we're cool. And he was like, we had another foreigner on the set, right? It's like I forgot where he's from, but anyway, he's foreign, a white guy, doesn't speak Chinese, and this guy, this coworker who's Chinese, Shanghainese, comes to me, and he's like, see, this Wagoran, this foreigner, doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, probably sucked, he's like, I don't know why he's even here, like, talking shit,
Yeah.
And he's like, like, fuck America. He literally says fuck America. He knows I'm American, right? He's like, fuck America. We don't need them. As a matter of fact, he speaks English, right? A little English. He's like, I used to work with foreigners all the time, but you know what? We don't need foreigners. Our own people are good enough. We don't need to hire the foreigner just because they're good. We have plenty of local people that are good enough to do the job. So that's why I don't work with foreigners anymore. And he looks at me straight faced. He's like, I know you're from America, but you're Chinese. You're Chinese. You speak Chinese. At least you can speak Chinese. At least you can speak Chinese. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I kind of like I don't think he meant it, but I felt a little uncomfortable because he's talking shit about the West, and obviously in his mind it's like white people or like black people or non-Chinese or Asian people. Well, not even Asian, non-Chinese people, right? So in his mind the picture is painted. And because I am ethnically Chinese, maybe he, in his mind, he's gave me the pass. Mm-hmm. But at the same time,
almost barely giving me the pass.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the same time, he's almost like, let it be known, you barely passed.
Yeah. Like, you're on thin ice, sir.
Yeah, you're on thin ice.
I feel that. I feel that too. And that scares me way more than, selfishly, that scares me way more than what's going on in the States because I live here, right?
Yeah.
I want to get, I've been talking to, I had him on a show before, Dr. George, who he wants to come back on the show, and we want to get into the whole idea of third culture kids. And that's what we are. We're kind of third culture kids because we're kind of, we go back to the States and we're not completely from that culture anymore. And here in China, we're not completely accepted here as well. So we're kind of in between in this third culture space. That's actually kind of new for our generation of Asian kids because, for many, our parents were the first generation immigrants.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that's actually a really scary idea. If it gets to the point where we're really not accepted anywhere, and it boils over here just like it's boiling over in the States, where there's the reverse anti-Asian sentiment here, where it's oh, you're American, you're speaking English.
Yeah.
Oh, you're from America.
Yep.
Fuck you, right?
Yeah.
And it's shit, because it's like you said, it's already happening here, and it's the same kind of prejudice and bias and kind of ignorance that's happening in the States, but it's happening here in a reverse way.
Yep.
And we'll just kind of be crushed on both sides of that.
Yeah. Selfishly, for sure. I mean, before we got on air, I was mentioning another example, right?
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about, before recording this, Justin and I were talking about the pettiness of netizens here in China. Well, globally, but specifically in China. And, the comments that are left on social media platforms, the pettiness, like the things that people say are just so crazy sometimes. And one moment in particular was with our friend Charles. Actually, he has some issues with his restaurant, previously, and people were on the attack because they were very against something that he did in the restaurant, that he's very over now, he's apologized and stuff like that. But at that moment, it was sort of like a reckoning, if I may. Right. And I was on the social platforms and seeing what kind of response he was getting, and he was getting a lot of media attention about it. And I saw all this really negative vitriol towards him being an ABC, American-born Chinese, or Western Chinese.
Like, it wasn't even about what he did. It was just the fact that he was an ABC.
It was the fact that he was Western, like he's American, right?
Yeah.
So he has a passport. He's an American passport, but he's Chinese, right? Yeah. He speaks Chinese perfectly. He speaks Shanghainese, right? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You're American, right? So all this horrible language towards him of being like, go back. We don't need you. You think you're better than us. Get the fuck out of here. That type of language. Not even about what he said or what he did or, whatever that scandal was.
Yeah.
Nothing about it. And then here I am reading it and wanting to respond, but at the same time thinking, they're talking about me too.
Yeah.
They're talking about me as well. And I've been living here for 13 years. No, 14 years now. Mm-hmm. I love being here. I've also mentioned that ever since moving back here, I've never felt more comfortable in my own skin because I'm around my own people, in quote unquote, right? And then I just suddenly felt like alone. I just felt like, do I not belong here? Yeah. I mean, I'm Chinese. Do I not belong here? I mean, did I have a choice? I was born in America. So do I not belong here? And I felt really, really sad. I felt really sad. And at first I came onto these platforms wanting to defend my friend because I know him and I know he's a good guy, and I felt it was a little unfair. But the netizens just went off. And like I said, they just went off on him being American Chinese. And I couldn't respond. I didn't respond. I was like, because they're yelling at me too. So what, am I going to defend myself too? That's a losing battle.
Yeah. There's a lot of poisonous hate out there everywhere, right? Yeah. There's a lot of poisonous hate.